Thanks so much, Melissa. It's great to see your face. Good morning, y'all. My name is George McGraw. I'm the CEO of digdeep.org, working to bring clean running water to the 2.2 million Americans who still don't have it. And I am so excited to be joined by my friend and colleague, Emma Robbins, who is founder of the Chapter House and my colleague at Dig Deep as the executive director of our Navajo Water Project. Emma, thanks for being here.
Hi, George. Hi, everybody. Honored to be here. Yate.
Emma, do you want to take a second to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so as George said, I'm the founder of the Chapter House. I am the executive director of the Navajo Water Project. George and I have been working together for almost 7 years, but really what feels like 70 years. And, a big part of what I do in both roles is collaborating with my community on the reservation. I split my time between the res and here in Los Angeles. And, the work that we do can be really taxing. And I think it's something that it's important to have those conversations as well, that those of us as the community leaders, as those of us who are collaborating, need to find ways to take care of ourselves. And so, moving from working with communities where I feel like as Native peoples, we can get really stuck in this fighting to survive mode. And over the years, I've wanted to move to the other side, which is, coming to moments of thriving and being in community when we're not constantly having to fight for the most basic human right, but being able to be restful and do things like come together with art. So doing both things can be a lot, but I feel like they balance each other out with the Chapter House and with the Navajo Water Project. And in addition to that, I'm an artist, and I see that role helps me educate a lot of people who might not have access to issues that Native peoples are facing.
I'm really excited to bring art into this conversation, Emma. But today in general, we've been talking a lot about our dreams for the US. And this gets a little complicated when you're an American, but like you, first and foremost, a member of a sovereign tribal nation that's been subjugated by the US for so long. So you have a foot in these two worlds. How do you navigate those overlapping identities, especially when it comes to a conversation like this one about our dreams for the US?
There was a really important moment where I remember my dad and I were having a conversation, and I feel like it was just like in his kitchen. And he said something that really stuck with me, which was, first and foremost, you need to remember that you're a citizen of the Navajo Nation. And then after that comes Americanship. I don't know if that was his word, but that's what I remember. And it's difficult for me because as a Native woman, especially, I always feel like we are put on the back burner as Indigenous peoples in the United States. And that's not to mention Indigenous relatives who are coming across the other parts of the so-called Americas. We're constantly put in the back. We're a footnote. When it comes to projects with the federal government, there's a lot of consent, but not a lot of collaboration or planning out where they're actually taking into account things like treaties. It's difficult for me because I not only feel forgotten, but I feel like a lot of the progress that's being made is so slow, although it is there. I'm the mother of a 1-year-old, and I'm really hoping that in the future she'll be able to have a lot quicker movement and progress when it comes to these things. But it's hard because I think it starts from the most basic level of dehumanization, where we're still mascots. In Hollywood, it's still okay to make jokes about Native peoples. There's not a lot of education in the US system about Native peoples. And it can be frustrating because although I am considered a citizen of the United States, I pay taxes, I have a passport, so on and so forth, I don't want to remove myself from that, but I want to use that side to further the side of being Navajo and a Native person, and bringing light to who we are, because the questions I get asked sometimes are like, oh, did you grow up in a teepee? Or I didn't realize that Native Americans still existed.
Well, at the risk of asking a complicated question, knowing all of that, then, how would you answer that question? What is your greatest dream for the United States? Is that question even relevant to you?
My greatest dream for the United States is to actually start giving an F about Native peoples. I think that comes from a lot of different things, from changing the mascots to actually formulating cabinets that are of Native Americans. I think it's really great and it's really inspiring that we have more Native peoples in positions of power in the federal government. You know, Deb Haaland is someone that I look up to, Sharice Davids, among other people, but I think we need to have full bodies who are there speaking for us and who are making sure, I'd say actually this is my number one dream, is making sure that the federal government is upholding and honoring the treaties. Because although hundreds have been signed between Native nations, not one single one has been upheld. And that is a big problem. And that's really a direct factor as to why we don't have running water, or why 30% of us on the reservation don't have running water. So I'd say the number one dream is honoring treaties.
Now, you became a mother during the pandemic, and so you're speaking for yourself, but now you have this larger family unit you're speaking for. How does that factor into your dreams for your country and for yourself?
It's something that I start to think a lot about decades from now. I think before becoming a mother, George, you know, I'm not like a motherly person. I don't consider myself a motherly person when it comes to having a child. And so I think more in community, but now I think of smaller parts and how that builds into a community. So what do I do to educate my daughter? And how do I show her that it's about collaboration and it's not about otherization in order for us to really come together? I don't think it needs to be Native peoples against everybody else. I think that allyship and accomplishment is so important, and that's when we get major things done. So I think really instilling in her what's important for me, making sure that she's able to carry on our traditions. And it's complicated because I grew up on the reservation and I was steeped in that, but she's here in Los Angeles. So how does she, as a non-Tongva person or a non-Chumash person, how does she be a responsible ally as a Native woman to our Native relatives who are from this land?
Beautifully said. Let's bring art back into the conversation. We're starting to wrap up here. We have about a minute and a half. What role does art play in all of this, in this discussion around our hopes for the US, our fears?
All Native peoples are artists, right? It's like literally embedded in who we are. And I think visual art is a way to educate people. Not everybody can experience visual art. Sometimes it's auditory, sometimes it's actually like feeling vibrations, and that can happen also through music. It's something that is used to bring people together and to have conversations and to educate folks, because I think sometimes it can be taxing to have this feeling that we're responsible to speak up for every Native person. But like in our work, in the water world, I oftentimes think about art as the sort of water drop, and from there ripples inspiration and want to go and Google and to participate in community events. So I think it's really about education and bringing folks together.
Beautifully said, and there couldn't be a better place to leave it. So thank you so much for this conversation, Emma. I love and appreciate you so much, and I've learned so much from you. So thanks for taking the time to be with us today. I'm really excited to pass things off to my fellow, Ellen Ray, coming to us from Chicago, Illinois. Hello, Ellen.